Chris Terrio and I talked about what we felt the last chapter of this 9-film series should be, what we felt we inherited, both, in terms of character, also in terms of theme, in this trilogy, in the 2 prior trilogies. And it felt, the more we talked about it, the more inevitable it felt that this character who was so important in the first 2 trilogies come back and in some form. And how it happens and what the story is, you'll see. But that was what we did. And then we told the studio what we were going to do, and they signed off. And the studio has been amazing, by the way. Yes, we had all sorts of challenges. One of them was having Carrie Fisher in the film, because she sadly had passed away, and realizing we needed her in the movie, we tried to figure out the best way to do that, and we looked at footage we had from Force Awakens and realized we could take footage, scenes that we had shot that we hadn't used, and use shots for this film by writing scenes around her. So Chris and I, as we came up with a story, found pieces that we knew we could use. It was almost like doing a puzzle, where we had these certain puzzle pieces, and then we had to create puzzle pieces around that puzzle piece to fit. And when you see the movie, you'll see that she's in the film, and as a fan of not just Star Wars, but of Leia particularly, and Carrie as a human, to have her in the movie feels like a real gift. Well, I mean, there's so many. The first time you meet Han Solo is one of the great moments ever. The battle on Hoth is, unforgettable, and something that I will never forget seeing for the first time. Most any scene with Yoda is incredible that you can think of. The shocking death of Obi-Wan was just the best. I could just literally just think of any scene. It's like open any page of the book, and it's your favorite page. So there are just too many to name. But all of Empire Strikes Back looks, the photography in that film, the feeling of that movie was just so beautifully made. Like I said, there are too many moments that I appreciate, especially now working as a director on these films. I've come to see how easy they made it look when it really is not easy at all. Kevin Feige needs no advice from me. I mean, he's doing obviously incredible work, so I cannot wait to see what he does and what all the filmmakers do with Kathy. It's a great question. It can be a line of dialogue, it can be a shot, it can be costume design, it can be a creature design, ship design. Everything sort of goes through this same filter, which I'm sure is maybe different for everyone, or at least, various people will have their own opinions. But there is something that feels like, oh, that feels like Star Wars, and that doesn't feel like Star Wars. And it's a bit like when you see it. You can't tell, you can't create a list of criteria and say this is what makes something Star Wars, this is what makes it not Star Wars. Except for maybe shoes. Someone mentioned that they don't have laces and that there are no buttons. I'm like, well, that's probably true. But in terms of something that feels like Star Wars or not, it's a strange gut feeling, and it's not to say that anyone's right, but it's like everyone has their own sense of what that is. I'm definitely, curious what people think, and I'm aware of, what fans are generally thinking and saying, though I'm sure I'm missing a huge amount at all times, but I'd like to think I'm generally aware. You take that into consideration just the way you take into consideration things that, friends of yours say and people you trust, family who are honest about what's going on. Articles are being written, what critics might say, all of it is sort of and there's a lot of noise and a lot of opinions. I mean, there are more opinions. Somehow there are more opinions than people. I don't know how that happens. But ultimately, I think it's really important that you get a sense of it, but it's very dangerous, I think, to take any of that stuff too seriously or to pay too much attention to any of it. Because anyone who has an opinion, there's someone else who has the opposite opinion. And often they're both loud and they're both right. And so if you try to please any one group, you're immediately upsetting someone else. So I think the best thing, the only thing you can do is say, I respect those people, I respect those opinions, they're all correct, and here's my opinion, and then make your movie. Well, everyone should, who sees the film will have their own experience of it and their own sense of it, but I will say that our ambition in making it was to tell a story where you'd feel better when you leave the theater than when you get there. And I hope that's what happens for people.